Thank you so much for being here on Gym Rock Crew.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm stoked about this.
Awesome. So you guys are on tour currently, the Find the Beautiful tour, right? In the US?
Yes, we are. We're like halfway through the tour right now. We actually just got into Phoenix last night.
Cool, cool. So I just want to say how much I appreciate you being here while you're touring. Thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it worked out perfect. We have a handful of off days coming right up, so stoked it lined up.
That's good. That's awesome then. So I'm Ramona, and Gym Rock Crew is basically this movement to help rock and metal artists live longer, healthier lives. I just want you guys to hang around longer so you can give us music a little bit longer.
Definitely. I love that.
Yeah, you were such an agile performer, and you look super fit too. So I just had to reach out. It was a no-brainer.
Thank you so much. I love, the whole concept behind your channel of like, I feel like, performance and fitness can go hand in hand, and they each help each other so much, and especially that's the goal too. We all want to stick around a lot longer and continue to make music and create, right?
You ready to get into fitness?
Yes.
Awesome, let's do this. Okay, so quick fire questions first. Top 3 bands on your workout playlist.
Oh, my workout playlist. I feel like I like to go for like the heavier stuff especially like when I'm lifting. So I'd say like Pantera, Seven Dust, and we'll go Megadeth too because I like the thrash stuff when I'm running.
Yeah, Megadeth's a big favorite here. I think almost every artist has picked Megadeth, and Lamb of God as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love Lamb of God too. They're another one that's always in my gym for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so your favorite exercise and why?
Oh, I feel like it varies all the time. I'm very much, changing things up. I love, kind of balancing between like lifting and how powerful that feels, and then also like Pilates and how it's almost kind of like recentering and balancing the two. That's definitely been what I've been really getting into lately with my workouts.
Yeah, they really complement each other really well, lifting and Pilates.
They really do. I think for the longest time I was always one or the other, but then putting them together was when I started to kind of find like, that strength, but then also like the flexibility of Pilates, and I feel like really we're hitting every muscle group, that way. So that's definitely been my favorite and go-to version.
Yeah, it's very core focused as well. Yeah,
and that definitely helped a lot with performing too.
Yeah.
Sure.
So your least favorite exercise and why?
Least favorite, I would say probably like long distance running, which I'm bummed because I would love to get into it, but it just hurts like my knees and my shins, and maybe that's something with my form I can fix, because I wish I was one of those people that could go out and run 10 miles, but I'm just not built that way.
But you're not alone. I think Lena as well said that she really would love to run, but she can't. And there was another artist as well. So you're not alone.
That's good to know. I feel like I don't know if I research it enough and figure out. It's probably just, adjustments to make on my end, but who knows? Maybe next time we chat, I'll be all into running. We'll see.
So Bella, what's your favorite exercise? Long distance running.
Yeah.
Let's get into the nitty gritty then. What do you do for fitness? Like, what does your routine look like in general when you're not touring?
When I'm not touring, I feel like I try to coordinate it a lot with the seasons, where I live in the Northeast, so it's like, especially in Maine, we really only have like 3 or 4 good months where like you can work out outside. So that's when I'll do, hiking, shorter runs, or lots of like walking as like my cardio instead of, going into the gym, just to be able to get outside and get some fresh air at the same time. But I'll also kind of always pair that with like a lot of body weight workouts when I'm home, just because a lot of times if I'm already home, it's just easier for me to work out there instead of go to the gym. But yeah, usually between the two, and then some of my friends are fitness instructors, so I'll definitely pop into different classes, like spin and Pilates and yoga. I'm always kind of changing things up, and just, I feel like when I do it that way, I kind of just think of it as like whatever makes me want to move my body and keep going for the day to get that endorphin rush, for sure.
Yeah, but whatever you're doing is walking.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
So I saw you doing stand-up paddle. Is that something you enjoy doing as well?
Yes, I do love it, and it's funny, it goes right hand in hand with, like, working out in the summer, especially back home. It's like, I've, been doing stand-up paddleboarding and kayaking since I was a kid, so anytime, like, I'm home and able to, I'm always stoked about it. And it was funny, on our last leg of the tour, we were in Wisconsin, actually, by one of the Great Lakes, and they just happened to have, like, stand-up paddleboard rentals, so we were out with, like, the whole band and everyone, and as soon as they saw them, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go dip and do this for a few hours, but I'll catch up with you guys later, because I'm like, it's so rare you get to run into that just coincidentally on a day off. But yeah, definitely doing stuff out on the water, I always really enjoy, and stand-up paddleboarding is another great core exercise, too, and, like, a full body. It also ties into balance as well.
I've never tried it, but I mean, that's all I've ever heard, that you need a lot of core strength just to stay up.
Definitely. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend. But
Yeah.
the first time I did it, like, the instructor was explaining, like, you kind of think it's like an arm motion, but all of it's really coming from, your core, and then also, like, almost kind of like with, like, yoga, like having, like, mountain pose where everything's active, even though it looks like you're just standing. It's kind of like holding that stance the whole time, so you stay upright.
Yeah. What's funny is my 8-year-old daughter loves doing that, and she surfs as well. I'm embarrassed now because she
Really?
she is really good at it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and I think, too, I like with it, you're able to kind of change it up for, like, your balance level, too, of, like, I've done it before, if, first time back in a while, like, sitting down or just on my knees or whatnot, and then as you get more comfortable standing up. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm gonna try it for sure.
Highly recommend.
Cool. So does your training change? Do you do anything differently when you're preparing for like a long tour?
Yeah, I think I'll definitely do a bit more cardio getting ready for it. I feel like that's something, once I started touring and realizing, how the show really, for how much I jump around on stage, it is like an hour of cardio. So to prepare for that, I'll do a lot of, like, that's when I will start getting back into like the jogging, and then also going to spin classes, and even like hit style cardio and stuff, just because I feel like it helps so much with like having that endurance on stage. And then also too, I just start to, feel my best going into a tour, and that's always the goal, to go into, like, especially a longer tour, like, this year we've been out for most of the year, so I feel like it's so important to always be, like, feeling your best, and that's kind of always, like, my mentality for, like, preparing for a tour. That, plus lots of, like, stretching, kind of combining it with, like, things that force you to, like, slow down a little bit and recenter when, things can get always so hectic preparing for a tour, and I feel like I'm always thinking of, like, 20 things at once, so doing something like yoga, or trying to meditate will help me a lot with, like, putting everything kind of on the back burner and focusing on, like, my mental health as well for a little bit, and taking that time to, like, find some peace with them, all the craziness going on.
Awesome. And I noticed that you do a lot of like high impact stuff on stage. You're always jumping. So I think that's from the high intensity workouts. That helps.
Yeah, definitely. It helps a lot. Because it's funny, like, growing up, like, I was never really the biggest fan of HIIT workouts, and then but like when I started performing, I would just do all that naturally and not think of it, and I would not think of it as a workout at all. And I'm like, wait a second, the HIIT workouts are the same exact thing I'm doing on stage pretty much, with all the jumps and kicks and all that. Like, might as well do that, when I'm not on stage too. It's just as fun. Maybe not just as fun, but it's still a good workout.
Yeah, totally. What do you do to stay fit while you're touring?
I feel like it's a combination of, like, trying to work out every day or getting some sort of, movement within my day. Like, the past 3 days, I try to keep things really flexible, too. It's hard to have, like, consistency on the road when you're, the setting's different every day, kind of working with what you've got. So, like, my baseline for me is, like, trying to get 10,000 steps every day. So that way, like, if we're in a city when I want to explore, instead of being in the gym for an hour, I'm still getting that movement in, walking around everywhere. So I feel like always prioritizing some sort of movement, and then having some consistency with my diet. This is actually our first tour where we're touring in a bandwagon, so we have, like, a much bigger fridge this time, and I'm able to kind of stock up on, like, my go-to, like, healthy food, so I'm not, relying on, like, gas station food for meals. And it definitely makes it a lot easier to, like, get all the nutrients in and make sure I'm, like, eating right on the road. And definitely, it's crazy just the difference you can feel, like, just those two simple things, like how it affects how you feel on the road and your performance, and how it all ties together.
Your performances are like a workout. So you're doing that, and then you're also doing the walking around and all that. So are you actually also adding in workouts, or not really?
Yeah, I am actually. So usually I'll try to hit, like, a Planet Fitness every morning. And I'll try to do, I won't get too crazy with like the workout structure, just where, you know, things are kind of different every day. I'll split it between like an upper body and a lower body day, and if I can get a couple of each during the week, awesome. So I'll do that, and then typically a half-hour cardio, just because I feel like it kickstarts my morning and gives me so much more energy as opposed to like, you know, sitting on the bus on my phone or, you know, sleeping in or whatnot. So, and it just feels good, you know, days where I'm able to get in like a workout like that and then also do a show and be walking all day. It definitely, I feel like it helps a lot with like feeling productive on the road and also making sure like, you know, you're healthy in all aspects, like mentally and physically.
Absolutely. What do you prefer, upper or lower body?
You know, I was always a big fan of lower body, and then I think I was just scared of lifting weights because I didn't want to, like, my arms to look bulky, and then I started doing it, and I realized how fun it was, so I'd say I'm a bit more into upper body at the moment, but I love both.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same, but also because in the summer it gets so hot at the gym and it's really hard to do lower body workouts when it's boiling, so I'm really enjoying the upper body workouts, really looking forward to them.
I feel you there, especially with the heat. It's a whole lot easier to do that.
Right. So while you're touring and you do pretty long tours, how do you prevent yourself from getting sick or exhausted?
I feel like the number one thing is staying super hydrated and making sure that I'm drinking water all throughout the day. Like, I'll have, you know, my 1 cup of coffee in the morning, and then after that it's pretty much just water, and making sure, like, you know, like right now where we're going from East Coast to West Coast, I'm like having something like a liquid IV or some emergency just to like make sure I'm staying hydrated and like kind of keep being mindful of my immune system. And then if I start to feel sick at all, definitely the emergency is helpful, and I'll go to, you know, a health food store and get like the little like wellness shots with the turmeric and ginger. That definitely helps a lot. And then too, when I start to feel a little sick, just making sure I'm getting as much rest as I can. Like, you know, maybe after a show, instead of being out super, super late, I'll just go to bed and, like, you know, try to sleep in as much as I can just to give my body time to fight off whatever, you know, cold might be coming on. I feel like on the road it can kind of be inevitable to get sick, but that's like the worst thing, you know, when like you don't feel well and you're still traveling and performing. So I try to be more mindful of like the prevention side of it now, as opposed to it used to be like, you know, when we were first touring, I'd be like, okay, I'm probably going to get sick on this and I'm just going to deal with it. Now it's like, okay, there's things I can do now so I don't get in that situation, or I'm less likely to.
Love that. That's such a great tip. Thank you. Also, sleep and water, like hydrating yourself, those two are so underrated.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. It's funny, like, just comparing the difference of, like, we've had tours where or every tour except this one, we would always drive during the day. So we would get, like, a couple hours of sleep at the hotel, and then we'd leave super early. And, like, you take naps during the day, but it's, like, your whole sleep system's kind of thrown off. Versus, like, now where we're driving overnight, it's, like, night and day of, like, feeling so much more rested and comfortable on the road. And, like, yeah, everyone seems to be feeling, like, a lot healthier, too. Like, just getting, like, adequate sleep every night.
Love that. I'm happy for you.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have a pre-show routine?
Pre-show, so I'd like to try to be playing guitar for the hour leading up to the show. For me, I like to just feel as warmed up as I can. And I know it helps with like nerves, and then also just, you know, feeling really ready to perform. So I'll definitely do that, and then trying to get in some stretching as well. And then making sure to, like, yeah, staying hydrated before the show, because it's the worst thing when you overheat on stage. But yeah, that's really my main thing, is like I'll kind of get ready a little extra early, so that way I have the, you know, at least, you know, even on days I'm short on time, like at least 30 minutes of like just sitting down with the guitar and playing whatever, and like going through all like my technical exercises and whatnot, so that way I'm like kind of feeling my best when I go on stage.
Nice. So I've spoken to musicians, and some of them are like, we need to get ourselves hyped up before we go on stage. And then there's the other musicians who are like, we need to just kind of center ourselves and be calm before we step on stage. So which team are you on?
I would say it almost depends on the show, too. Like, I'd say I'm definitely more on the recentering side. Like, you know, I'll kind of be a little bit more introverted and more just practicing or having, like, headphones on with, like, playing along in songs or whatnot. But then certain times, you know, if we're, like, or it can go either way too. If it's like before a festival date or whatnot, we're all hanging out hyping each other up. But a lot of times on that tour group, it kind of gets in that routine of like I'll kind of drift off somewhere with my guitar for like disappear for like an hour, then come back right before showtime. But yeah, that's the usual thing. But it's always a great thing to go on stage too, feeling really hyped up. I feel like kind of no matter what, like our walk to stage time is always when everyone's like really positive and really, focusing on like that high energy and getting really excited for the show and hyping each other up.
Love that. Love that. What is your diet like?
My diet? So I'm vegetarian, so I feel like already on the road that kind of limits me a bit, but I try to focus on like eating whole foods, clean foods, and then trying to get in any like natural protein sources where I can. So like my go-tos on the road are like, things like Greek yogurt or like vegan protein powder. And definitely like any sort of like salads or sandwiches or veggie burgers I can have on hand. Like, it's tough not being able to cook nearly as much as I'd like to, where at home I'm like always, making meals from scratch with like lots of fresh veggies. Where right now I'm kind of making the best with what I got, but I definitely try to focus on just eating as clean as I can and definitely prioritizing, getting in as many nutrients as possible on like the vegetarian diet.
Awesome. All right, cool. Do you have like a favorite cheat meal or guilty pleasure?
Man, I would say probably like any like vegetarian Mexican food where we've been in Texas. Like it's situations like that. It's like, okay, you gotta splurge. Like you can't beat it. When you're in San Antonio or whatnot. I'd say like that or pizza too.
Mexican food is amazing.
Right, exactly.
So, do you smoke? Have you ever done drugs?
No, I mean, it's one of those things, and it's cool to see, like, I don't know, I feel like this new generation of rock, it's so different from, like, like the stories you hear from the 70s and 80s, like, none of us are into drugs or smoking or, like, that, like, hardcore party lifestyle or anything. Like, everyone's so focused on their well-being and their music, and that's all what we're here to do, So definitely staying focused on that, and I haven't really felt the desire to, dabble in any of that other stuff, It helps too, especially, being with a group of people where that's like the collective mindset of everyone, you don't really see any positives of venturing down that path.
Okay, so you don't drink alcohol?
I'll drink alcohol once in a while, but definitely like, fan of like moderation and not, making sure to not go like too crazy with any of it for sure. It's kind of one of those interesting things where, starting touring at like 18, 19, once, I'm now 21. So it's like that first tour where it's like, oh, I could actually go into bars. This is crazy. I would definitely go out, a whole lot more than, what I would do before, but it's definitely all about moderation now and kind of that awareness of like, it might be fun once in a while to go out for a drink, but I know the next day I'm not going to be feeling my best. And especially, like, if there's a big show the next day, it's like, that's kind of the last thing I want to be doing, knowing that that's how the negative impact it's going to have on my body.
Makes sense. All right. And actually, that was one of my next question, which was, have you seen that there's a shift now when within the rock and metal genre of musicians being more health conscious and taking care of their health more as opposed to the past? So there's definitely a shift, and I mean, all the people I've interviewed here, it's just testament to that. So
I think too, seeing like it's really cool to be a part of like in the industry when it's like this big shift going on, and I feel like all these artists, everyone's talking about how it is an endurance game, and everyone wants to be able to keep performing and keep creating. And touring, no matter how healthy you are, it's still taxing on your body. So trying to do everything you can to feel your healthiest and your strongest and the most balanced you can be on the road. I feel it's really cool to see that that's kind of like the much more common, thought process as opposed to like that party lifestyle. And it's definitely cool to see so many artists, really like being open about that too. Like we've done so many tours where like I leave feeling inspired by like how like everyone on the crew is vegan or everyone's, hitting the gym every day or like doing, all these, things that would be intense enough like at home, but managing it while you're on the road as well too is super, super inspiring.
Yeah, I love that. For aspiring musicians, how important do you think it is for them to focus on their health and fitness?
It's so important, and the most important thing though is only compare yourself to your prior you. Don't look at what you see on social media or, you know, the polished images of musicians we all look up to and think that that's the norm. That's people at their best moments. That's something, if I could go back and tell myself as a kid that's the first thing I would say. Focus on how working out makes you feel and how healthy eating makes you feel. And you'll look the way you want from that because you feel, you know, healthy, balanced, you're taking care of yourself, and definitely, you know, nourishing your body and working out is the most important thing instead of trying to do anything to fit any sort of image of what, you know, you might have to like look like to make it or whatnot. The most important thing is if you're taking care of yourself, people notice, and it ultimately just helps how you feel about yourself, and then also having energy to keep making music and keep pursuing this career.
Yeah, I honestly believe that you guys are like athletes. And so, just the way athletes look after themselves, you know, the rest and recovery part is as important, and then fueling themselves properly. So, it's exactly the same thing.
Definitely, yeah. It's something like, you know, I had heard of, but then once we started really touring, you know, I'm like, oh, immediately it's like this switch flip. So, like, this isn't like playing local bars back home anymore. It's like you have to think of the long run and the endurance and looking ahead at your schedule of, like, when do I have 3 shows in a row and what do I need to do to prepare for that to make sure I'm feeling my best. And it's literally so much planning and, like, also learning to listen to your body and be in tune with like what you need to feel your best instead of comparing yourself to others or what you think is going to be normal. It's all about, you know, having that awareness of like how can you function best on the road.
Yeah, awesome. So, you lift weights. Has that affected your guitar playing, your practice in any way?
I wouldn't say so. If as far as like the playing itself, if anything, like I feel like more energized, a lot stronger. Definitely within the past few years of touring, like again, you know, going, you know, right into this band right after high school to now, it's like you go through so many changes both mentally and physically, and I've definitely, throughout my fitness journey, I've gone through phases of like not having nearly probably enough muscle mass to, you know, learning to lift and like nourish my body, and I feel like noticing that difference of like I don't get sick on the road nearly as much as I used to, and I have so much more energy, and I'm not sore after a show, aside from, like, you know, maybe my neck from headbanging. I'll notice that, you know, from lifting, and it is cool to see, you know, those changes that I feel like we don't really think of when we change up a workout process or start lifting more, eating differently. It's, like, so many little changes that are so helpful and feel, like, really rewarding. Like, just feeling a lot more, I don't know, I guess, stronger overall and, like, kind of, like, built better for the road, you know, instead of feeling, like, you know, worried about, you know, not having the energy to do a show or worried about, like, passing out or something like that, you know. I've noticed that from, like, lifting more, I feel like a lot, yeah, I guess a lot, like, more ready for performing. Definitely a lot, yeah, I guess, like, an overall focus on, like, my wellness inside and out. So, in that sense, I guess, yeah, it has impacted my playing, but it's something, you know, I really don't think of until I stop and reflect, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess it has had this big change, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's so important because a lot of people, a lot of women especially, I see they're still kind of in this mindset of, oh, lifting is going to make me bulky, and it's just focused on how you look. Like it just changes the shape of your body, and of course, those are the benefits of it, and like a bonus, right? But lifting actually so much more, like everything that you just said.
Definitely, yeah, and I feel like having that mindset shift of, like, you know, I used to be like, okay, I'm only going to do these workouts because I want to look this way, and it's like, oh, you're actually, like, you're just, you know, skimming the tip of the iceberg of all these things you could be doing to make your body function its best, and I think that's the best thing I've done for myself within the past years, like, getting more into lifting and, you know, not being afraid of lifting, for sure.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there any sport that you've always wanted to try, but you've just never been able to master or get good at?
Yeah, for me, it's so funny because with sports, I am so uncoordinated. Like playing guitar, jumping around, fine. Actually, even growing up, I was in like a circus arts program, so I could like unicycle, juggle, that sort of coordination, totally fine. But like, we get to like soccer, basketball, I'm just no, it just is not. This is something does not click for me. So like something like that, I feel like it would be fun, but it's one of those things. I don't know. I've always been too focused on music to really pay all that much attention to sports.
Cool. Okay. If you could choose one person to train with, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I would say Nita Strauss, just because she's so inspiring and definitely someone I look up to. That's again one of those like inspiring women you see, really bringing to light this whole mentality in the industry of like, health and wellness can go hand in hand with being a touring musician. So yeah, it would definitely be a dream to train with her for sure.
Cool. Okay. We're done with the questions. Do you have anything you want to add? Anything physical or mental health related?
Um, I guess probably the biggest thing for me is like when I think of physical health, and again, this mindset shift is realizing it's, your physical health, your mental health, they go hand in hand instead of two separate thought processes. And definitely for, anyone in like a very demanding job or a touring situation, it's so important to take care of both. And yeah, definitely focusing on like if you take care of your mental health, then your physical health will follow, and they work hand in hand, and ultimately it helps you do your job best.
I love that. Anything else? We're done with the questions.
Just thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun interview, and it's a great change getting to talk all about fitness too.
Right? Thank you so much, Bella. This was really a pleasure. And Gym Rockers, make sure you catch Plush live. They're touring right now in the US. Find the Beautiful tour, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we're out until mid-September, wrapping up our first headline tour.
Awesome, awesome. So make sure you guys go check them out and give Bella a follow. Bella, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great chatting with you.